We were just talking about how many people are required as a quorum, and Beth and I feel the answer is 8. And if we're wrong, I'm open to being told that because I am nowhere near feeling confident about my memory on that. And I don't have my bylaws right in front of me.
I have a little tool that I can use to take a tally and see if we have a quorum. So let me see if I can find that.
You do? You're so fancy,
I do.
Gary.
I know.
Why don't I have that? How does it work?
Let's see. It has a roster of Sage user council members, and we just.
Hey, George, thanks for your comment. It's 1 over half. Yes, I know what quorum means. I just don't know how many people we have as our council currently. Thanks for that. I sometimes need that reminder also. And Mary Reeser says good morning. And Delia says good morning. Perry is looking up information about the Sage budget he posted, so we can open that when we get to it.
Okay.
And Erin says she's not a board member, but I am a member. Did Erin not take Marcia's place as a board member? Or was Marcia currently not a board member when she left her position?
Erin Wells is.
Erin McCusker from Umatilla Special Districts.
So let's see. Is Delia on?
Yes.
Delia Fields. She's here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ann Zwelke?
Yes.
She's here. Cecily Longhorn?
No.
I'm here.
No?
Oh, well, Cecily, you're not signed in. I didn't see you. I apologize.
Oh, I'm on the phone, but the go-to meeting isn't open. It doesn't.
Oh, okay. So Cecily is here.
Great.
That's great.
Dia?
Dia's out. She's ill.
Okay. Deneen?
Who?
Deneen Rottenstrack?
Oh, no, she's not on yet.
Kathy's here. Erin's not, you said?
Erin Wells is not.
Rose Peacock?
Yes.
Yes. Jennifer Costley from Pendleton?
She's been replaced by Mary Finney, and Mary Finney has another commitment today.
Oh, okay. Jeff Wawrinek from the Dalles?
No.
No. Robin Jeffrey, Klamath?
No.
No. Rich Wanschneider from Josephi Library?
No.
Then we're just one shy.
Okay. So if somebody else comes on, we can go backwards and talk about our minutes. Did anybody have any changes to the minutes, whether we approve them or not? Is another, that would require a vote, but changes we can talk about. No? What about the proposed bylaw changes? When do we vote on those? Where are we at in that cycle of presenting them? And
my understanding was that we were going to vote on them at the annual meeting.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. But we do need to figure out where we are in the whether we have the language exactly as we want it, at least a couple weeks before that meeting.
Okay. And wasn't it Dia was working on that? The language?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so I could touch in with Dia before in a couple weeks because she'll be in Oregon for several weeks, she said, so I can touch in with her and we'll see what we can get set for the exact language that we want. So we'll be ready for the annual meeting in June. And then we'll send them out by email to members before that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments about the proposed bylaw changes that we need to discuss? Beth, you were going to send out numbers in each category.
Okay.
Or it's what it says in the minutes.
Okay. I will revisit that and send out those numbers.
Okay. Okay. So now we go on to committee reports. The cataloging committee, who reports on that?
Normally Dia does. Since she's
Uh-huh.
out, I can just make a brief statement about
Okay.
that. It's been long enough since the last cataloging committee meeting. I'm having a little mental block here, but we've been doing, I think the cataloging mentors are continuing to meet monthly and discussing different cataloging issues. We're getting ready to put some procedures together for book with CDs, since it's a thing that has increased in frequency, and we're trying to make things better for the patron. And so that's going to be available soon in a training. We're continuing to do cataloging sessions every 2 to 3 weeks, and those have been well attended and well received. And so we'll continue to do that to increase the training that we're doing for our catalogers.
What's the progress on training for Cat 1 applicants?
Still on hold while we increase the skills of the Cat 2 levels. But my guess is in another couple months we'll be able to take on some Cat 1 catalogers.
Okay, so just a scenario. What if a library were to hire next week a cataloger that comes from another library that's been a cataloger, and they hire him for the position of cataloger, and they have a Master of Library Science in cataloging? Would they automatically become a Cat 1, or would they have to go through join into the Cat 2 training and wait for Cat 1 authority?
Before you answer that, Beth, I just want to
Yeah.
check in. Are we recording this session, or do we want to?
Oh, that's a good question.
I am recording it. I recorded
Okay.
it a few minutes after 10, right when we got started. But
Okay.
Thanks, Perry.
Yeah.
It is, I guess, dependent upon experience, Kathy. I think that if there was somebody who was well experienced in cataloging, they would get the Cat 2 level right away, and the Cat 1 could quickly follow. But I think that there's a need for just acquainting with local procedures and so on, that there might need to be a little bit of oversight, not the extended oversight that people who are moving up would need.
Right.
Does that kind
My
of
only
get
concern, my concern is the Cat 1 process stretches out longer before, is that we might be tying the hands of some of our libraries that rely on having a cataloger in their library or their district. And I just wonder what the feelings are from the rest of the SAGE Council, and if we are getting any feedback on that.
Well, the only thing that is, Cat 2 catalogers can do quite a bit in the system.
They can.
So I guess the Cat 1 level, they can overlay records, they can eliminate duplicates. Those are two functions that Cat 2 cannot do. original records, but oftentimes you can download a record and then enhance it with Cat 2 permissions. So I guess am not thinking that there's a lot of drawbacks with not having
Okay.
the Cat 1 permission.
Okay. Well, and if people have questions, I want to let them know that, join into the meetings or send a representative to the meetings, and then we'll know. We don't know if people have input if they never offer it, is all I can put out there for the council. And so I guess that's why I play the devil's advocate sometimes, just trying to raise up some of the questions I hear randomly. And it's like, okay, I'll ask.
Yeah, and if there's needs out there that I don't know about, if there's something that they really need to do that they can't at the Cat 2 level, that would be good to know.
Okay. I'm going to turn the volume down. There. Okay. So next is the Circulation Committee.
Okay, Circulation Committee met last week. We reviewed a couple documents. We were looking at the duplicate patron procedure and ironing out that, as well as fine-tuning a lost in transit policy that's been around a long time but had no dates associated with it. So I sent both of those documents out, and I've started getting feedback. And the Circulation Committee is going to meet again next month. And so we'll take that feedback into consideration and make some additions to the documents as needed. I think that's the
Okay,
gist of
thanks,
it.
Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Budget Committee. Do you want me to show the budget now, Perry?
Sure. Maybe it'd be easier to show
Which
my
one do you want? The
screen.
detail? Oh, yeah. You want Beth to allow you to share your screen?
Let me see if I can request that. Become the presenter. Yeah, I don't have the
Okay.
ability to take over, it looks like.
Nope,
All right.
you don't.
I'm making you presenter, Perry.
Okay. Share. Okay.
Now
Can
we
you
can see what
see it?
tabs you have open and see what's going on in your world.
Can you see it now?
I see it.
Okay. All right. So this spreadsheet is it's the same information. There you can look at this two ways. If you're more familiar with the one we submit for special districts and legal budgets, you can use this one, the LB10. But it's the same information. It's got historical information on the left, current year information, and then proposed budget on the right. So that's kind of the same structure, but this spreadsheet has also tabs for the member fees, for the amounts, if you're curious about that. All right, so this yellow column here is the actual for this year, and you can see that we started the year with 190,000. We'd only budgeted the cash on hand of 160, and that's mostly our carryover from Brent, the unexpended personnel for that. Our membership dues were pretty on target, 211, and we have 209. I found that 2,200, so looks like we're good on that. Courier, we got a little bit more from LSTA than we budgeted, so we're good there. And then moving down to the expenses, Here's our total we spent on Beth's salary and Christine, who's doing our accounting as the fiscal agent, and the benefits details for both of those two. George is not up in personnel because he's a contracted employee, and he's down here in system support. So we spent $28,000 for that system support contract so far. Telecommunications is the GoToMeeting license, $234. That stays pretty stable. Technology, this is Equinox support, and also we've currently got images from Content Cafe, Baker and Taylor in there as well. So that's under budget so far. Authority control, we're a little bit over on that. I think that's LTI.
Yeah, I think we may have to increase the budget on that, Perry, just because of the number of records are increasing in the system. I'm currently doing some cleanup because I need to send a new base file to LTI by the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we need to look at a new number for that that's more realistic, so that we can keep up with our authority control.
So there's going to be some more work done and more charges in that line, is what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So maybe it's going to be 5,000.
Yeah, that's kind of the figure that was sticking in my head. Do you want that under technical or up under authority control?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Should be rather than.
It's the total line, but yeah.
There's two subtotals there. Okay. Dues and subscriptions. That's we have had the Baker and Taylor, so we need to figure out whether that images that's up in technology needs to move back down here to dues and subscriptions. I think that's where we've customarily had it. OLA memberships comes from that line. And supplies. This is over because we currently have the laptop that is issued to John in that line. I don't know if we want to move that down to capital outlay where we have the one we got for Beth as well, but it is a capital asset that now belongs to Sage.
Right.
So it probably would make sense.
Yeah.
So moving that would make this line just fine.
Okay, that's good.
Because I think it's $1,100.
Yeah.
Travel, we've only spent $250 of our $2,500 budgeted. Training, similarly, just 10% of that so far, $575 from $5,000 budgeted. Here's our courier expenses from LSTA billed to them and what's been billed to Sage so far. And member credits, we have 12,500 set aside that are overpayments, I think.
These were credits that came when these libraries migrated in from their former system.
So what is the plan for those credits?
My plan is to work with those libraries to spend those out.
So can you explain to me how you get a credit when you migrate to Sage from a former system?
Well,
those people that don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this was in the Southern Oregon area. And because they were charged differently in their former system, when they came into Sage, they had this outstanding balance. And it's just been sitting out there. Some have used it because they got into financial difficulties and needed to use it. We've discouraged them from using it for their Sage membership just because it becomes more difficult from an administrative viewpoint to put that in the budget for next year.
Don't quite understand. I'm sorry, but say I came from a Southern library and I used to pay $1,000 to be part of a system, and now I joined Sage and my cost was only $500, but I paid you $1,000 anyways. Is that what you mean? No.
Well, it
I'm
basically was a balance that was transferred over to us from the Southern Oregon Library District. And the credit was there for them to use for whatever purpose that they had, but it's just been sitting there for most of these libraries all these years.
So they had a credit previously with their Southern Oregon group.
Correct.
And then that group transferred the money to Sage. They're like, well, we can't keep your credits because you're no longer with us.
Correct.
Okay. I see what you mean there. So what could they use it for besides membership?
Well, and I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying it might be budgetarily disadvantage, a disadvantage to them. We had, one member use it for part of their membership fee this year. They could use it for big expenses like say they could put some of it towards a security gate or books. And then if they did that, they would submit a request to us to Sage, and we would send the money back to them. Yeah, or pay for it directly, depending on what was best for their library. Sometimes money, when it gets sent, just gets put in a big pool, and the library doesn't get it. Right. And so that's what we were trying to avoid by just cutting a check. And, we wanted it to be a benefit to the library. Okay.
I think we should do some outreach to those libraries and let them know we'd like them to use that up.
Okay. Do we want them
I just feel if it were my library, how many libraries is this involved in that total? Guess.
A guess. 4.
So let's say it's 3,000 per library. If that were me, maybe I forgot about it, but I would like a reminder that, hey, you got this money hanging out, or maybe there's been changes in staffing and that money pot has sort of slipped away from their knowledge.
Yeah, and I have sent out periodic emails, but I'm fine with contacting them again and seeing, do we have a deadline, Perry? Do you want them to use it by the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, I think we've budgeted it in an expense so that we can get that off of our books.
Okay. I would like that.
All right.
So it'd be great if I also have it budgeted for the proposed budget, just not anticipating it being used.
Okay, I will contact those libraries this week and see if we can't get a plan in place to spend down those dollars by the end of the fiscal year.
That'd be great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, back to the budget. So we're done with materials and services expenses, and capital outlay. That's probably going to get increased by another $1,100 because we're going to move that other laptop down there. Contingency, that's just a reserve emergency fund. We haven't spent anything out of there of the $11,000. And so our balance for next year projected at growing just a little bit from the carryover that we had this year. So we had 190, and I've bumped that up to 195 as a carryover. Membership dues, looking at the consumer price index for the Western region, we're at 3% rate of inflation. So I've proposed the budget with a 3% cost of living increase for staff, and that means a 3% cost increase on the membership dues. So the membership dues really need to cover the core expenses for Sage, so the staffing and the operational expenses. 3% gets us that same amount so that we're not spending more than we're generating from our internal membership. So 214 is the projected, 214,571 is projected membership dues for next year. LSTA, just a little bit more I've budgeted than what we got this year, 55,000. I don't know if there's been more talk of that staying the same or going down.
My thought is to keep it as much the same as I can. Career costs for the Orbis Cascade Alliance are going up slightly, so I need to pencil that out. But we didn't spend down our portion, so I think we're going to be fine keeping it around 55,000, Perry.
Okay, great. We don't have any LSTA or other grants in the works.
If the LSTA courier money is not funded by the feds, how much of an increase would that be per library, per member?
Oh, well, let's figure that out. So we have to make up 55,000.
Yeah, we have how many members?
Let's see. And we've got 214. Let's see what percentage that would have to be. I'd say it's probably, let's start with, so we see, we need to get 55, let's do 14. Say we need to get to about 270.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, what have I done?
Don't know.
There we are.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Whoa, 40%, Perry. Wow.
I think that's an important
35.
number for Sage members to advocate for people being aware of the fact that we do rely on LSTA funding for our libraries, whether it's obvious or not.
Mm-hmm. So to make up that difference, it'd be a 30% increase.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we'd have to revisit probably how we do courier and make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother ballgame if we lose LSTA funding.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do some serious soul searching and maybe, say, okay, we can't pay, local drivers. We have to find volunteers. A whole nother discussion area.
I think it'd be doable for some of us. Like Baker, ours would go up to 15,000. We could do that, but I'm sure a lot of the smaller libraries would have trouble.
Yeah.
Oregon Trail, yours would go up to 12,300.
Jeez. I mean, that would probably be worth it because we do so much business through courier now, but I really want to reach out to my people in my community and my board and say this is what the result we would personally see from this. just
Mhm.
one result. So,
Okay.
okay, thanks for
Back
calculating,
to the
Terry.
budget. Sure. Um, there's a little bit of income that we get from billing OCLC subscriptions. Was that cataloging tool back to the members?
Yep.
So that's budgeted at 2,600. We haven't collected on this year's yet.
No, those bills are coming out this week.
Okay. And again, 3% increase for salaries calculated in the proposed budget. So Beth, that means raise from 58,000 to 59,700.
Okay.
We did get insurance quote from special districts, and the increase is only 2% for this year. So I don't have the exact number. I've kind of estimated that with the health insurance. PERS, I think, is going to be stable for this year. Next year, it'll probably go up again because it's a biennial change. So these figures should be roughly accurate for the salary and benefits. I didn't put any real changes in the materials and services expenses. The administrative fee is a percent of the total amount of funds that we're working with. So the administrative fee does go up because our pot of money is increasing. Let's see, system support is, this is also has a 3% increase for that contract position proposed, and that's for a full year. It was 60,000 for 1 year. And the rest of these are unchanged. So with our carryover unexpended money from Brent position, we can increase our capital outlay reserve fund. We plan on using for server replacement or other equipment that we might need for the network, the Sage network. And we have a bunch of money in contingency that we can apply to anything. And our unappropriated ending fund balance is what we use to draw upon until we get member payments in. We need a minimum of 100,000, and we've got 135 allocated in there. That should be plenty. For half of a year, from July to December, we spend 120,000. So 135 should be plenty for us to operate. So any questions that I can answer? When will you know the increase? So you can look at the member increase amounts on this spreadsheet. Just go to the tab of member fees and find your library. And it'd be in this column at the far right. So that is with the 3% proposed increase.
And so we'll vote on this, Perry. When do you think? A couple weeks from now, or?
Yeah, I can send a ballot out this week.
And will it have a deadline?
Yeah, deadline is good to have. What do you
Yeah.
think would be reasonable?
Well, if you send it out Friday, that would be what, the 23rd? And if we did 2 weeks, that would be the 4th. Or no, I'm looking at May. Sorry, the 6th. Or do you want to do 3 weeks? The 13th. Let's skip 3 weeks just in case people are out at spring break or PLA or something.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kathy. What I can do is I can also post a link to this on the SageLib website as well as a draft budget.
Okay.
I do have one suggestion that would entail, I think, maybe increasing one of these proposed lines, and that is to purchase some stickers, window decal stickers, or wherever people wanted to stick them, but to let our library users know that the library is a member of the Sage library system.
Yeah.
Since we now have that cool logo that Hood River got for us, we can have those printed up on clear. I saw a site, a sticker mule. So stickers that will stick on the inside of the window. You can get stickers that will stick on the front. You know, you could put it on your book drop. I think it would be helpful.
The book drop's a good idea because people then would know when they're out of town, if they saw it, they'd be like, "Ooh, I could throw my book in there."
Right. So they're not real big. They're just like 5 inches by 5.
I mean, we have a sticker in our window saying we're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. It sticks to the inside of our window. So it'd be similar to that to have one say we're a Sage member library.
Right. So I was looking at Sticker Mule site. They've got front adhesive. They've got the square ones that would go on your book drop. There's also rectangular 5 by 2 inch one that we have the more square logo, and then we have the more elongated one. So we could get a bunch of those. If we spend $1,000, we'd have plenty for everybody for several years. I don't know what the durability of these things are, whether they need to be replaced after a while. So if we spent that, let's see, we could put that in supplies.
The other thing that I forgot to put on the agenda, even though Beth and I talked about it possibly being on the agenda, is maybe the need to purchase more green courier bags.
Right.
Actually, I was gonna bring that up under the courier committee meeting. I've got a quote, and since we have money this year, I was gonna go ahead and spend it out of this year's courier budget.
Oh, good. Okay, Perry, so I like the idea of Sage. How does this work? Do we have to vote, or since we have money in the budget for next year, we can say we want to use it?
We can just, change the proposed budget, add $1,000 in the office supplies line, and take that out of our unappropriated ending fund balance or our contingency, either one.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. If people don't like it, then they could comment on, I guess, on the vote.
They could.
That's a great idea.
Cecily likes it.
So these are library focused. So they would be stickers used at the library, on the library book drop, that kind of thing. Okay.
So
It
here's,
would also be good if anyone's ordering new library cards to put that logo on the back.
it would be, right, to remind people. You see this image, then you can return your books here, or your card will work
Yeah,
here.
like a debit
Check
card
these
where
out.
it shows on the back what banks you can use it at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really want to get new library cards because we're getting a new logo, but I have a hard time justifying it when I have like 5,000 of them in the closet.
Wow.
But this would be another reason if I could say, well, we want to have the Sage system on it too.
Yeah, I wonder how much it costs to get little stickers that you can put over top of the old logo and add the Sage logo on the back.
Those never work right. You know, you get those
No.
D&V stickers and they never work right.
Yeah, they don't.
I
stay
like
on
the
there.
idea of the ones for the window and the ones for the book drop. And
Okay.
Okay. Any preference about whether to take that out of the contingency or unappropriated line?
I think contingency I
Inappropriated, I would
prefer.
Yeah, I was thinking contingency.
Okay. There we go.
Cool. Okay. Are you done with the budget? So do
That-
you want to switch back to me being the presenter so I can show the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions about the budget? Okay. Thank you, Perry and Beth, for walking us through the budget and answering all of my questions. Okay, Beth, Courier Committee.
All right, the Courier Committee met yesterday. We're going to continue meeting every other month for now. We just opened it up to issues that folks are having. By and large, things are going well. The expat courier is comments were made about the more timely delivery. We're getting things quicker. The green bag issue came up, and Jeff indicated that we still have an entire box of small green bags. They're not out in the system, so we have plenty to distribute. I'm going to be taking some out when I do.
Where are those small green bags physically right now?
They're physically at EOU in the ILL department.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to be grabbing some when I go to the in-service in the Umatilla area, Umatilla County area, and I'm going to be trying to spread some of those out as I make site visits and as I travel to like OLA. So we'll get those in the mix. And then, as I indicated, I did get a quote for the large green bags. Of course, a price increase since the last time we ordered them. But to order 500, it'll run us, okay. 500 would be a cost of $3,515 to get 500 of the large size green bags.
The large size are the most in demand? Since we
Yeah.
have a box of small hanging out somewhere
Yeah.
all this
We-
time?
We when we purchased them, we purchased a lot more of the small ones, obviously, because they're used more frequently. And we ordered a smaller quantity, obviously, of the large ones, but we're in a spot where we need to increase that number out in the system. My hope is that 500 will be enough.
You said it was 3,000.
Yeah, let me bring that back up at 3,515, Perry.
For 500 bags.
Yes.
And we have money in this year's budget that would cover that.
We do. Now, that does not include shipping.
Oh.
That's just the unit price. I'm just looking at the quote here, and they don't mention shipping, so there'll be an additional price for shipping, obviously.
So we will need to move some money from this year's budget up to the supplies line if we're going to make that expense in this fiscal year.
Well, I thought we still had quite a bit in the courier line, the Sage courier line, Perry.
Oh, you want to spend it out of that line? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because that line includes things like labels, and which is a bit it's a supply that's specifically courier oriented. So yeah,
Okay.
I was thinking
That'll work.
Okay. So that was the basics of the courier committee. Any questions?
Did you also discuss the return of big items such as a book kit that's in a plastic tote?
No, I forgot to do that, Kathy. So
Okay.
We talked about it, but in the meeting yesterday, I forgot.
And I can't remember, did you say you were going to bring it up at the committee or somewhere else? Like my request for adding another courier day to my district.
Yeah, that was something that we were going to negotiate with the ESD.
Okay.
And it will alter slightly the money that we pay the ESD at the end of the year. But budget-wise, I think if we keep the current amount that we had budgeted for last year, for next year, we'll still be fine.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Strategic Planning Committee? Oh, wait, going back to the courier, Delia suggests that we possibly bring the bags to the June 1st meeting. What do you guys think of that idea?
I just noticed that, and it's like, yeah, I'll just put them in my trunk.
Yeah, good idea.
The Strategic Planning Committee has not met, but I think the June meeting would be a great opportunity, a forum for that discussion to be had.
I agree, Perry. I think that will be a good opportunity. I think strategic planning sometimes works best in person, where you just spout stuff off instead of thinking through an email or thinking through unmuting your mic and convince yourself that your ideas aren't as good as maybe you think in your own head. Okay, so we'll put that to the next month or the next meeting. Is there anything else that was missed on the agenda that people would like to discuss?
I do have a question about the Sage loan rules. Do we have like an updated version of those?
We do not.
Or more updated than I have? Well, I'll tell you why it came up is at our last directors meeting. A lot of the libraries started talking about not wanting fines on children's books and things like that. And, you know, whether I agree or not, we're part of the SAGE system and we all need to be on the same page with it, I think. That was my only question.
That's actually a policy that you can make individually. It's not mandated by the standardized loan rules.
Okay.
I think it would only involve, the interlibrary loan items if they were lost, and that's a different matter.
Okay.
Which we were speaking of in the circulation committee of revising that policy of how to reimburse libraries when things are lost in interlibrary loan context or in transit. And yesterday we had a complication. We had a interlibrary loan that was lost and paid for, and then it was returned. So it's made me think of that policy, and we're talking about paying, sending that payment to the owning library. If we had done that, we hadn't done it yet, but if we'd done that, then we have to go back and get reimbursed for that payment. So.
And then that raises a question. We had that happen where a patron had a book that was lost. They didn't pay for it. We were trying to figure it out, and it had been several years lost. Then they brought it in, and they're like, well, I have it here, so I think my fee should be waived. And then I told them, well, that's up to the owning library. The owning library said, no, our policy is you need to pay the full amount whether you found it later or not. And it gets really tricky.
Yeah, and normally there's different time periods with which a library is willing to take it back, but you know, usually the longest period is a year, because by then they've typically replaced it or, you know, moved on.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
But it almost gets to the point where you're going to have to look up the owning library's policy online, see what it says, tell the patron, well, you got this from the Hogwarts library, so now you need to pay. And it sometimes gets beyond the scope of how my front desk people take the time to look into all of that. But, well, Perry, so good thing you hadn't sent the money off.
It's a good thing, and I'm thinking.
But then you'd be stuck in the awkward position of asking for a refund.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all that much, I don't think, so probably isn't that big of a concern. But I was just thinking maybe we would do those payments quarterly, or after 90 days, you know, send the payment to the owning library. Just hold on to it, just in case the item was returned to us.
I don't do that because I'm afraid I'll forget and won't send it to the owning library.
Yeah, it becomes really complex. So that might make it more complex than it's worth for these rare instances.
Well, we did briefly talk about, and I think we were going to talk about this more at the annual meeting, about the idea of having a central PayPal account that all the money goes to, and then a distribution is made by library, you know, either quarterly or, you know, semi-annually. And this would allow patrons to pay online. So it's an idea that may streamline some of this.
So I'll include that in the annual meeting agenda. I feel like there's a lot of things that I should have been taking notes on that we were going to discuss at the annual meeting, but those will be in the minutes.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, that does sound like a strategic planning kind of discussion.
Yeah, planning for the future.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any suggestions? Here it says the sage responded about not looking for bags. Did you want me to read this out loud for anybody that didn't see this?
What are we talking about?
I didn't see it.
Ann Zelke said Hood River County has requested that Hood River Valley High School not use bags and courier to them, but if Hood River Valley High School will be charged for lost books, I think Hood River Valley High School should probably go back to using bags for all the items that leave just to be sure books are not lost in courier vehicle. And then Beth replied, since the courier is within the same city in one vehicle, it's probably fine to not use bags. It's tricky, and lost books. I think that I'd like to go to the ESD and look and see if there's some black hole in the counter where things fall through and hide underneath there somewhere. Because if they're not in my library and they're not in the Hogwarts library that I sent them to, and they never made it back to either of us, where is that book?
Well, I noticed just yesterday in the courier we had probably about 10 DVDs and a couple books come from Hermiston Library just dumped in the crate. And I thought maybe they had known the courier was coming from Hermiston to Stanfield, so they just put them in there without bagging them. But he said they hadn't done that. It was probably that they got put in a box, and when they went to ESD, the ESD just dumps them out, puts them in the crate.
Yeah, that's
And,
why we're encouraging more bags than boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, and because they were some of our new movies, and I was surprised with it being so close. I've never had a problem that close. Usually it's from kind of items that come through the Dalles that seem to be, dumped in crates.
I think what happens is either they don't have enough bags, or perhaps they say, wow, this is a lot of things going to Hermiston. It's going to use up a lot of our bags. So let's just put it in a box. And they don't realize if it's not labeled correctly that it's only for one location, and no need to open the box. I mean, it would have to be a lot of instructions because ESD thinks that it's multiple locations in that box, so they open it.
Well, no, a lot of it's space issues rather than discerning what goes to what library, because they only have so much space in the truck.
So it's better to open the box and have them fit in the crate. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk to ESD, because when I visited with him, I took it like when they come in the boxes, the bags the boxes that we're not supposed to use, they're opening them and dumping them out. That's what it sounds like to me. And it may not be them, but whoever is sorting items up there.
Yeah, and this may become less of an issue if we have more large bags in the system.
Yeah.
Where they can use a large bag.
I usually don't say anything, but with it being that close and it was so many of our new movies, it was kind of, just bag them right, or don't send them until you have a bag.
Yeah, were they in the DVD boxes?
No, they were just movies dumped in the bottom of the crate.
Oh gosh, they should be using the boxes, even if they're in a bag.
And it could be that we're so close. One patron turned in 10 at one library, and they, but it's okay. I just thought we should be aware of, there's a process somewhere not being followed. So.
No, thanks for bringing it up. It's good for us to know, and but
I also want us to work well with ESD, because that is a good connection. Because through libraries and through ESD, I've heard two different conversations, and I want to make sure we keep that friendly connection. We don't want to, because I think it is a good service for us, and I think we're paying a lot less than if we run it ourselves. So we want to make sure to keep playing nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Any other issues anybody wants to bring up today?
We need to start thinking about who to nominate for officers or representatives.
I forgot about that. When are we supposed to have the nominations done? Isn't it this month?
I don't know.
It seems like Dia sent me an email saying that it was, according to the bylaws. Okay. I think we need like a sergeant at arms to keep us in line with all our bylaws.
So this is for outgoing council members, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And officers. When do officers get elected?
Well, I thought officers was in the fall.
Okay.
Officers get elected now in
at the annual meeting.
Yeah, probably should.
I think last year it was late. That's why I'm thinking. I don't think we did it at a later meeting.
We did. It was a couple months where we didn't have any officers.
Oh yeah, or people kind of just hung in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, do you have a list of which people are going off?
It's on the SageLib website when their term ends, so we could get that list.
Mm-hmm. And it's also.
Where is it on the website?
It's in that roster that I posted the link to for attendance as well.
So it's under
Kathy,
council?
Yes.
Oh, this is really old.
So,
Council.
yeah.
It's Anne from Hood River, Deneen, Kathy, Rose, Peacock, Jeff from the Dalles, and Robin. And Jeff doesn't look like has been able to make a single meeting this year. Robin was able to make one.
Robin is no longer at Klamath
Oh,
Community College. Meg is serving as interim director there.
okay.
Where was Perry, where was the thing on here that said that what meetings they attended? Where'd you find that?
If you look in the chat,
Yeah, but was it on the Sage website?
no, it's a
It's-
Google
Okay.
Doc.
It's a Google
Okay.
Doc.
So, yeah. there you go.
Okay. And do we have something that says if you haven't attended meetings that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So Robin's no longer at Klamath Falls, is what you said, Beth?
Yes.
Okay.
But
And
it is a concern. We've only had 2 of the meetings this year that we've had quorums at. So
I
we
know
need,
it is a concern.
we need strong
Did we
commitments.
reach out to Klamath Falls to see if someone from there wanted to replace Robin like we did with Pendleton?
I'll have to look back through my emails, Kathy.
Because that is our typical procedure.
It is our typical procedure. At this point, I believe Meg is willing. I guess what I'm thinking is she's only going to be attending one meeting before her term is technically up, right?
Are the
Mhm.
people whose terms are up, can they be reappointed? Or is there a limit, a term limit?
I think they can be. We've had some people, especially in the smaller libraries, have to do repeat terms because there's just not available people to fill.
The other person that hasn't attended any meetings is Rich from Josephi. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Josephi.
Josephi.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, and I think we need to reach out to members that aren't attending to see
I reached
whether.
out to Erin Wells this morning and she says, oh, I forgot.
Okay.
It's not that she is actively not attending, she just forgot.
Okay. I guess just wanted to toss out there whether in the new fiscal year we wanted to change up the meeting time, in case
maybe
that
do a
was
Google,
in case that was an issue.
a doodle poll and see what a good meeting time is, if this is good or if we want to change it up.
This is the toughest meeting time for me because I had to hit up a volunteer to do story time. So
Oh, yeah.
my mommies are pretty good, and we've ended right when story time started. But today I said I don't think it's going to end early. So
That's no
So
fun to
what-
miss story time.
No.
but she's happy to help, but I feel bad, you know. And when the little kids stare at me, why isn't the Miss Librarian coming over?
Mhm.
So,
Well, I wonder
Maybe
if
afternoon times would be better, because
Yeah.
I'm sure
Or
you're not
even
the
just-
only one.
well, even sooner would be good. I mean, no, I guess I'm the only one that comes to work at 9, but even a little.
No,
bit
I come to
earlier
work
would-
at 9.
Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, I think the meetings used to be at 9. But, and yes, I'm flexible. So whatever we
Mhm.
decide, I'm wondering if we wait until we get new council people in place and then send out a poll.
Yeah, I think we had 10 o'clock when we were meeting more in person just to allow for travel time, and now that we're
Yeah.
doing virtual meetings, that's not an issue.
Well, I hope that Kathy sticks it out.
Me?
She heard. Yes, I see it's your time. I hope you can stick out another round. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm still learning, so I'm awful
I'll stick
quiet.
out another round. I mean, if I'm appointed again, because I think it's important for us to be represented.
Well, and that's why when Aaron asked me, I was like, well, I'll do it. I feel like I'm kind of, in the back seat because I don't quite know all this, but I'm taking it as a learning phase.
Well, that's what I'm taking it as, a big learning curve.
Yeah, and I do think
Institutional knowledge, that's the key phrase right there.
Yes. I believe I was at that January meeting. I see where you're highlighted there.
Yeah, I just fixed that. I'll take your word for it.
Okay. And Beth, if you need anyone to help on the courier, I would love to be a part of that because I think that's such an important part of our services we're offering right now.
It definitely is.
I'm trying to get more of my staff or team members to be part of the committees, but that's a hard sell for some of them. Do you guys?
Yeah, it's tough. And
do you guys assign people to do that?
Well, I am just me, and that's why I avoid everything outside the library. But I just decided that, you have to step up eventually and help out because everyone can't do everything. And so I figured if I took a little bit at a time and learned, then that'd be good.
Okay.
But the courier, I just didn't like hearing. I didn't like hearing two sides, coming from the ESD and coming from libraries. Like, we need to have a healthy conversation, and I was concerned that we might be hurting ties. So that's why, we need to keep it positive.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything today? Okay. So we'll close this meeting for today. But a big reminder that our next meeting is the in-person meeting, June 1st, in Hermiston at their downstairs meeting room. It's from 10 to 2. I think you'll have to come in the back door because their library does not open until 11. And I will be sending out some information about what the lunch will be. Am I right that the Sage Council caters the lunch, or is it people pay their? I don't remember.
Sage pays for it.
Okay, so I'll be setting up the lunch this year, and I'll figure out who the person's going to be that does the food, and send out something about options if you need to be gluten-free or vegan or vegetarian or all the options.
Okay, thanks for doing that, Kathy.
You're welcome. I think it's easier for local people to try to do that. Take a load off, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so we're going to call it good and be done today, and we will see everybody in June in person, hopefully.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
send out the link for voting on the budget.
Oh, great, Perry. Thanks for doing that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.